My name is Terio. I am a veterinary pathologist with the zoological pathology program at the University of Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine. As a veterinary pathologist, I both diagnose and try to understand why disease develops, how disease develops, so that we can better prevent disease or treat it. So when I was a little kid, my dad was a little bit strict about what we could watch on TV, but nature specials were allowed. And because I was a kid growing up in the 1970s, there were a bunch of them about Jane Goodall. And so I got to see somebody who looked sort of like me as a woman out there in the wild doing amazing research. And so that inspired me to think that this is a possibility for a career for me. And then when I was in middle school, one of my mother's best friends gave me one of Jane Goodall's books. And so that really solidified it for me. I've done a lot of work with big cats in zoos throughout the United States, and also done work with cheetahs and lions in the wild, and with guineas, who are actually a small cat in South America. I've also advised on Iberian lynx in Spain and with Amur tigers in Russia. Done a lot of work with great apes, and especially with chimpanzees, particularly work in Gombe. I also worked with now turtles all throughout the United States. We work with everything, so the zoological pathology program where I work, we joke that we work from snails to whales, so we really get to work with a wide variety of different species. A number of years ago, when we were doing just diagnostics on turtles that had died, we identified a form of a shell disease that hadn't previously been identified, and we actually isolated and described a fungus that had not been previously described. And so we got to name it, and we've been doing a lot of work trying to understand how this fungus causes disease. So the lesions that these turtles get with the fungal infection are predominantly in the shell, but they can also be in the skin and in their nails. And there's actually loss of the shell bone itself. And so sometimes even if you take a radiograph of the turtles, their shell will look like Swiss cheese because it has all these holes in it that the fungus is sort of eating away at the shell. So the fungus is called Amidomyces testivorans, and testivorans means shell devourer. And so that is where that came from. My colleagues and I first described this fungal infection in 2019, and in the last 6 years, it's rapidly grown to being a problem that's affecting turtles throughout the United States in the wild. Dr. Allender and I work very closely on this. He is a clinician that has dedicated his career to saving turtles. So we were working very closely together to try to better understand this fungus and to figure out new ways to treat it. I have been working with the Gombe EcoHealth Project since 2004. One of the things that makes Gombe National Park special, in addition to the work that Jane Goodall did there over the years and the long-term behavioral research that has been done in that community of chimpanzees, is that it is the only habituated group of chimpanzees that is naturally infected with SIV-CPZ, which is the direct precursor to HIV-1, the pandemic strain of HIV, which has caused the AIDS pandemic. And when we started this study, the dogma was that chimpanzees were infected with SIV but didn't get sick. And what we found, however, was that they do actually develop an AIDS-like disease, and that it impacts the survival not only of individuals, but also in the communities and populations there. Early on in the pandemic, it was pretty soon after we had all gone into lockdown, I received a call from a colleague at the Bronx Zoo in New York City. And they had a tiger that was coughing. And so in chatting with my colleague, we talked about trying to get the tiger tested. And I knew that Dr. Lei Wang here at the University of Illinois Veterinary Diagnostic Lab had developed a test to identify the presence of the virus. And so they sent samples here to the University of Illinois, and we were able to confirm the infection in that cat. One thing that's been really striking about the SARS-CoV-2 infections in the zoo species has been that it's predominantly been in the big cats. We have only seen infections in gorillas, and to date there haven't been infections in chimpanzees, which we would have expected. I think any of us would have expected that. Not only have a lot of different big cats been infected with the virus, but we have also had deaths associated with the SARS-CoV-2 infection in big cats, predominantly in snow leopards and in one lion. Oftentimes with wildlife, we're worried about infections that they might give us, but SARS-CoV-2 is definitely one of those where we're giving it to them and spreading it to them. What I really love about what we do, and this is also in collaboration with all my colleagues at the Zoological Pathology program, is that we are diagnosing disease on a daily basis, and sometimes those diagnoses lead you in unexpected directions. They might lead you to identify a fungus that hasn't been previously described in the shell. You might just see the first case of an AIDS-like disease in a wild chimpanzee. We also train residents in veterinary pathology and train veterinary students in veterinary pathology and disease diagnostics for wildlife. I think that as we continue to learn more about wildlife diseases and learn more about the impacts that humans have had on our environment, there are going to be increasing roles for veterinarians working with wildlife, and in particular with wildlife pathology. It is a high demand skill. I'm asked constantly to do training sessions for wildlife veterinarians in pathology, and I do those all throughout the world. Disease is part of life, unfortunately. It's not going to go away. And as our wild spaces become smaller and as our environments become further changed, there's going to be changing in disease dynamics. There will be vectors of diseases like mosquitoes that will now be in new areas that they hadn't been in and could be transmitting new diseases. Investigating that is exactly what a veterinary pathologist does, and there's going to be a greater need for people with these skills in the future.